first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my sister to leave after she tried to kick me out of my own house? My 26 female sister, who I'll call Emily, moved in with her husband 29 male, who I'll call Roger, 2 years back. Emily and I were never very close, but we were family nonetheless. Recently, they decided to get their house renovated, and because it's been quite disastrous at their place, they asked if they could move in with me last week. I was a little shocked because we haven't spoken in a while, but I said it would be fine with me. Then Emily wanted to have a talk. She asked if her and Roger could have the place to themselves on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. I asked where she thinks I can go, and her response, I don't know, get a motel. She continued to tell me how I can afford a couple days in a motel and it won't kill me. She told me it's nothing against me. It's just that they have their own traditions and like to spend a holiday together. They chose to get their house renovated during this time, knowing it would interfere with their Christmas traditions. So I asked them to leave. I can't put my life on hold and move out because they want to spend a holiday with each other. They won't be homeless. My parents took them in, but they called me absolutely infuriated because I refused to let them stay and wouldn't let them enjoy the holiday after all the trouble they went through with the renovations. Am I the a-hole? And now let's read the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm not even sure how you could possibly think you're the a-hole here. What an audacious thing to ask you to do. I didn't, until my parents made me feel like the Grinch. Ask them how they'd feel being asked to leave their own home during Christmas and pay for their own motel to do so, nonetheless. I'm a guest. Not the a-hole. Wow. What self-entitled a-holes. Leave your home on Christmas Eve and Christmas, please, because we have our own traditions. Not the a-hole. I'm starting a new Christmas tradition of kicking freeloaders out of my house. There's the door. If it hits you on the way out, it's a Christmas bonus. Not the a-hole. That's just insane. Who asks that? Be happy someone is letting you stay at their place for a while. Will they ask your parents to leave their own home now so they can have their Christmas? Or is it just you who they would ask this of? Not the a-hole. Your sister is off her rocker. Your parents are out of line too. If her and her husband want to be alone for the holiday, they can go to a hotel. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for making my late wife's daughter move out so I can date in peace? My late wife passed away about a year ago. We were together 10 years, but not married until she became sick about a year before that. She has a daughter, Beth, who is 19 years old. Beth is taking college classes, but they are 100% online, so she has stayed at home, which is my house. I've owned this before my wife moved in, so it was never technically shared. I've wanted to be supportive of Beth, but don't want her here indefinitely or until she's done with college. That's 3 more years, and it makes dating super awkward. I had a lady friend over after a dinner date last week, and she was snarky towards her, and later told me I'm moving on too fast. I tried to have an honest talk about being ready to move on and date others, but she kept calling me an a-hole. I'm just ready to move on with my life, but her presence is making that difficult. I told her I want her to move out at the end of this next semester, which would be the end of May, so 5 full months to find a place. She flipped out and told me I'm abandoning her to get laid. This isn't really the case. I just want to move on to my life and don't want to live with a 19-year-old any longer. She's still mad at me and is making living in my own home awkward, but she claims she can't afford to go anywhere else. Edit. I did not raise or adopt Beth. My wife was very clear that she was not looking for a replacement father for her. Beth never lived with me until 2 years ago when she was almost 18, when her mom moved in with me due to her being sick and needing more attention. I never played a fatherly role in her life. Before moving in, she and her mom moved every few years for a while. Beth didn't move in till her senior year of high school because her mom needed my help. Obviously, couldn't move the mom in without a daughter. Before giving her notice to leave, I tried to have a talk about ground rules for staying here, mostly including being polite to any guests of mine. She then went off on me for moving on with my life. That is when I made my decision. It wasn't exactly your traditional marriage. Before getting sick, my late wife never wanted to get married because her parents had such a nasty one, and her parents have been divorced a combined 4 times. I'm not religious, so never felt a need to get married either. When she got sick, we realized her insurance was terrible while mine through work is much better. So it was a practical decision to get married so she could be added to mine. Even then, she affirmed I wasn't responsible for Beth. I'm not just trying to get laid like many have said. I'm moving on and trying to have a normal adult relationship. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Wow, this is every dying parent's nightmare. Edit. Opie's belated edit isn't changing anything about this you're the a-hole vote. Truly, my first thought when I read this. Not the a-hole. If I am reading this correctly, you and Beth's mother were involved for years but did not marry or live together until she became ill. You were not a pivotal figure in Beth's life. You don't consider her a daughter and you don't believe she considers you a father figure. When your deceased wife got ill, you and she married, in part so you could support her. She and Beth moved into your home that you already owned. About a year later, your wife passed away. Beth was almost 18 at the time. After your wife passed away, and Beth stayed living with you for the next year. You are now ready to date again, and it has been a year and Beth resents this. You do not want Beth to continue to live with you. You supported your wife when she needed you. You helped Beth for over a year. You have done more than could have reasonably been asked. Totally not the a-hole. This is how I read it too. Beth is not Opie's problem nor responsibility. Time for her to go live her own life. All these you're the a-hole responses are baffling. Edit. Especially since Beth inherited $20,000. She's hardly going out onto the street. You're the a-hole. She's not your late wife's daughter. She's your stepdaughter. I don't know. My mom got remarried when I was 17. I don't whatsoever consider her husband my stepdad, since he had no part in raising me. Pretty much all my friends with parents who got remarried around that age or older feel the same. Final response. After this blew up overnight, even though the top comment says you're the a-hole, it seems everyone who actually read all the details has affirmed my view. I feel much better about my decision. Thank you, everybody. On to the next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend's family move in with us? Okay, I've talked to some people and received conflicting views, so I'm bringing it here. My 30 female and my boyfriend, 32 male, have been together for 4 years. We have 2 kids and 1 on the way. His family barely speaks to him unless they want money or favors from him. Now, me and my boyfriend's relationship is great. However, his family, mom, stepdad, brother, sister-in-law, and their son, have found themselves in a situation where they are losing their homes and want to move in. I said no, even though my boyfriend wants to help and doesn't want them homeless. Background: I have no problems with his family at all. I love them a lot. The problem is that they have lived with us before under similar circumstances. We got a house, and because of their situation, they moved in it before we did. Mind you, I had my second child and brought her home to that house a week after they moved in. They never helped with bills, although that was discussed prior. They never cleaned. They used our car, refused to get jobs, ate our food, destroyed our new daughter's things, etc. They literally ran us into the ground financially and mentally. When they moved out, they took half of our stuff without permission. It was very rough on me and my boyfriend's relationship for a lot of reasons. Fast forward to now, and we have a house that will be a little crowded once my new child gets here. But other than that, financially we are doing better. They're guilt-tripping my boyfriend to move in, because we have the means to help them and they want to help with the grandkids. But honestly, I don't want a repeat of last time, and I want my family to enjoy the new addition without the extra stress. I've offered to help in any way we can. Again, I do love them, and will do almost anything shy of letting them move in. It's causing some friction between us and his family, and my boyfriend is kind of stuck in the middle. I don't want them homeless or struggling, but man, I just cannot do it again. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just to clarify, my boyfriend agrees with me. The problem for him is that they are relentless in their constant attacks of him, and are literally holding any and everything against him, to the point that he considered it mainly so it could stop. He loves his mom and brother, and the thought of them homeless does freak him out a little. The family came to me because they thought they could get in that way. They are essentially making us both feel like a-holes for not allowing them to move in, So close to Christmas with no other options, and enjoying Christmas while they barely have food. Their words. Now for the top comments. I know this will be unpopular and downvoted to oblivion, but if this household has 4 physical capable adults, and between the 4 of them is repeatedly unable to pay for basic shelter, there is a bigger issue. Money mismanagement, addiction, laziness, poor planning. Whatever this issue is, something major is behind these bouts of homelessness, and since apparently none of them has identified or addressed it, it's unlikely to get better in the near future. Yes, there is a pandemic causing huge unemployment, which makes things much harder for everybody. But again, between 4 adults, there should be at least one of them who can find some sort of income from some source. You've already tried helping them by letting them move in, so you know exactly what it will be like. They will not clean, contribute, or take care of your things, adding only chaos to your house. You can't solve their issue for them. You can only sort of help them at great cost to yourself and to your children. Is this what you want your children to see and learn? Not an a-hole if you don't let them move in. See, that was my thoughts too. We tried lending money, doing everything we could. They're honestly kind of lazy, and feel that since we have money and decent jobs, we should be helping them. That's the issue my boyfriend faces in their constant picking at him, and using their love against him because he's not providing for them in their time of need. I honestly feel so bad for him because they are relentless, which is the only reason he even kind of considered it. Thank you for this. I felt so guilty. Not an a-hole. You tried this before and they abused your generosity. You don't need to try this again. This is something you need to agree on with your boyfriend. It can cause a major relationship problem if it goes untreated. Right or wrong, think about how much you want to fight this. Not an a-hole. You have been down this road and have no desire to do it again. Boyfriend needs to get out of the middle and get on your side, particularly if they literally stole from you and did not honor the agreements last time. It sounds like a traumatic experience. The first time around you could say you didn't know how it would be, but now you know. The freeloaders stole from you. What's even the question here for the boyfriend? He's outside his mind. You know better, so do better. This means saying a hard no and reconsidering your boyfriend as a partner if he is even entertaining the idea. OP is not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to financially support my parents any longer? My parents, early 50 and healthy, both refuses to work. I have been supporting them financially for a couple of years now, but my husband, and frankly me too, are getting a bit tired of this, especially with a child on the way. A bit of background. My birth mother died when I was 3, and I've been raised by my paternal grandparents, who also supported me financially. My dad remarried my stepmom and moved to the other side of the country. We only used to see each other for a few days a year. I only lived with my parents between 16 and 18, then started college and later moved with my then boyfriend, now husband. During this time, I supported myself with academic grants and freelance work. On my relationship with my parents, they haven't been abusive, just unsupportive and absent most of the time. I feel bad to say this, but they never had any ambitions in life, and were perfectly fine not to work, just do occasional gigs and be supported by my grandparents. I guess they were just never good at adulting, and not having the responsibility to raise a child didn't help. When I started pursuing a career in computer science, they told me I'm not smart enough to succeed and that I shouldn't bother getting an academic degree. 10 years later, I'm really successful in my career. Me and my husband are doing great financially. We paid all our debt, got a beautiful house we already paid for, and have some solid savings. My parents often tell me it was pure luck that I'm doing so great, not all the work and effort I put into it. Despite being free all day and living in the same city, they refuse to come feed my pets when we go on vacations, because they are busy and have other stuff to do. So I have to pay my cleaner extra to come and feed her. And yes, we hire a cleaner and a cook, despite the fact that my mother is free all day and could help out. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law sometimes helps us with these things, despite having a career herself and multiple children. They call themselves intellectuals, even though they haven't read a book in decades, can't even spell properly and watch bad TV all day long. When I told them that I won't be supporting them anymore in 3 months' time, they call me egotistic and a witch that only thinks about herself, and that I forgot how much they did for me. Literally nothing. They even went so far as to accuse me of the fact that I'm willing to spend a lot of money on expensive treatments for my old, sick, and helpless 18-year-old cat. A creature is completely dependent on me as its caretaker, but not on them. They also got pissed that I gave my old MacBook to my cleaner's child instead of them, after they broke the iPad I gave them in a few days. I obviously don't want and won't let them starve and be homeless, but am I the a-hole for wanting them to be more independent and not completely rely on me? Or at least not to be so entitled and feed my cat from time to time? Not the a-hole. Why are you supporting them in the first place, when it's clear they've never really supported you in any way? You don't owe them this. Cut them off. You can't be gentle about it and say something like, I care for you both, but the family I've created with husband and soon-to-be kidlet deserves all my attention right now. I've done what I can for you, or something to that effect. You teach people how to treat you, and you've taught your parents that you are a doormat/piggy bank. Until you change your behavior, they have no incentive to change theirs. Not an a-hole, and no. The answer to people like your parents is to ignore them and move on with your life. They aren't even worth this thought. Don't expect anything from them and they cannot disappoint you. Block them from your life and move on. Let them starve and be homeless. They aren't your obligation. They aren't old or disabled. Or at least not be so entitled and feed my cat from time to time. I wanted to add to this. Make sure you do not live in a filial responsibility state. While there are many states that have this law, Pennsylvania and North Dakota are two states that have well-known trial cases. Not an a-hole. If they're homeless and starving, chances are they'll get a job. You're enabling this behavior by supporting them. Honestly, you're hurting them more than you're helping them. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for calling out a friend's divorce because she wouldn't leave my husband alone? My husband works with a girl named Lucy, who also happens to be part of our social circle. I wouldn't say she's close to us, but she's a close friend of a friend, so we'll see her once in a while when there are group outings. She also works with my husband, John, and I guess because we also see her outside of work, she thinks she's super close to my husband. I'm not a super jealous type, but I drew a line when my husband himself voiced discomfort at Lucy's behavior. She likes to make jokes about being his work wife, try and push me out of conversations with my husband, like, you weren't at the office, so you wouldn't understand, and has tried to initiate one-on-one hangouts with my husband. John has turned her down, and has also explicitly told her that she was making him feel uncomfortable and to stop. She's just laughed and brushed it off, and still continues. He hasn't brought it up to work yet because she's a single mom and he didn't want to get her in trouble. Her advances have mostly been just annoying, but it recently escalated, which brings us to the issue. At a barbecue, my husband was sitting around a fire pit with his friends. I got up to get food, and I came back right as Lucy came and sat down on my husband's lap while joking, "Your work wife can entertain you while your normal wife is busy." This was the first time she made a physical advance, and my husband immediately jumped up and pushed her off. She laughed and told him to stop being so sensitive, and I could tell it embarrassed my husband. It was at this point that I told her, maybe if you had focused more on being a real wife instead of a work wife, you wouldn't be divorced. Lucy immediately left the party after that, and I found out from our friend that she cried in her car. She since skipped and avoided all events where I'm there with my husband, which has caused a strain with our mutual friend. Most of our other friends were on my side, but some said I was too harsh and that Lucy was just kidding around. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Lucy is trying to steal your husband. Thankfully, he is a good guy and isn't having it. Time for him to go to HR. There's a non-zero chance that she'll go first and report him for harassment. Good luck. He needs to file that yesterday. He should expect fallout for not addressing this more seriously. Work friends turn on each other constantly. Not a-hole. Lucy crossed a big line and needed to be put in her place publicly. It's probably the only way you and your husband could get her to stop. Bold and brazen, while trying to cloak it as a joke. Wow. Also, all of the kinder and subtler ways were tried and dismissed. Was it harsh? Maybe. Necessary? Definitely. Not a-hole. Not the a-hole. Lucy is lucky that she just felt your wrath, rather than your husband going to HR like he should. I understand completely why your husband doesn't want to. There are probably two reasons. One, he really doesn't want her to get in trouble. And two, it's embarrassing for a man to say they are being harassed. You should probably tell your husband that he needs to go to HR about it. She shouldn't lose her job over one instance, and she'll hopefully learn a very valuable lesson. Harassment at the workplace isn't a game. He needs to go to HR and get the facts on record before she goes and tries to twist the story. Unfortunately, he might need to start a resume as well, because HR can see it as who is the bigger liability. Hopefully his job performance is better than a single mom trying to steal someone else's husband and keeping him as in the company's better interest. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting people at our pool? My fiancé and I own a house with a pool in the backyard. His brother Jay had asked the day before if him and his family, wife plus 3 kids, could come over on Sunday to swim after one of the kids' sport games, which was at a park close by to us. Now, fiancé and I own a business together that requires working from home on Sundays. Everyone that we know is aware of this, including his brother. I voiced my opinion that I felt it was weird for people to be at our place while we were working in the basement. But fiancé assured me that it would just be chill. He said it's normal for a family to use people's pool even if they weren't home. So, we let them come thinking that they would swim for maybe an hour then leave. But it wasn't just them. Fiancé's parents also came. We figured they would. But the kicker is that Jay also invited 2 of his friends plus their partners and their kids as well. We do know these people, but both fiancé and I were not aware of this beforehand. So now it's a full-on party in our backyard while we are working in the basement. I became very annoyed that they did not only invite themselves, but some of their friends as well. It made me feel guilty that I couldn't be in my own backyard to host people because I was working. It also felt like they were just using the house and didn't really care about seeing us, the homeowners. Not to mention, the house was a complete mess. We had a busy Friday and Saturday, and I didn't bother cleaning much before because I figured it would just be Jay's family. Everyone was here from 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. We finished work around 3 p.m., at which time, fiancé put on his swim trunks to join them outside. I got in a pretty bitter mood from it all and stayed inside. I didn't even say hello to anyone because I figured they weren't even here to see me, just my pool. I did some laundry and some cleaning up, and I did end up seeing a few people who were coming inside to use the washrooms. I said hi and tried to make some small talk, but I really wasn't happy. Fiancé came in and said that I was creating an awkward/unwelcoming atmosphere by not being outside. I told him I never planned to have a party today, so I was just carrying on doing what I originally had planned, which was laundry and cleaning. Fiancé keeps saying that I was rude for not joining them outside after work. He also says things like the pool is meant to be used and that it's family time. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, answering those who have asked, we bought this house together completely 50-50. Fiancé keeps saying that I was rude for not joining them outside after work. Not the a-hole. You're not obliged to host a party you didn't want with people you didn't invite. Agreed. She also has a fiancé problem. Just sounds like the fiancé is more laid back about friends and family using the pool than Opie is. Opie was perfectly capable of asking them to leave after an hour or so and could easily have said they needed a peace and quiet to work. Waiting until it's gone on a while then sulking/cold shouldering everyone is childish. Whether the family brought a couple extra people unannounced or not. Not that that isn't a bit rude itself. The fiancé is more laid back about friends and family using the pool than Opie. Of course he is. It's his side of the family. It's very usual to have an agreement that each spouse deals with their own side of the family, to prevent some "how dare you say that" comments. Wanna bet that neither the fiancé nor his brother and his extended uninvited guests would be amenable to Opie going out there and say, "People, that's enough. I have work to do." This is a fiancé problem, not a brother-in-law problem. Not the a-hole. This is the most concise statement that sums up the real issue. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a problem, just a pretty severe misalignment when it comes to the pool slash having guests over slash boundaries. Sounds like OP's fiance likes having guests over and doesn't mind people using their pool whenever. And it is his pool too. He does get a say in who uses it and when. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not contributing to my boyfriend's home renovations? My boyfriend and I, both in our 30s, have been together for almost 2 years. Each make decent money, though he makes almost twice my income, and plan to marry and have kids in a year. Less than a year into dating, I agreed to move into his house, which he owned for several years at that point. Before officially moving in, all he requested to me was to pay 40% of the monthly mortgage and utilities payment and to take turns buying groceries. I gladly agreed and have consistently done that. I've also been paying for everyday necessities, such as toilet paper, soap, paper towels, etc. And we use my car 90% of the time because he's pointed out that my car is more gas efficient. I always pay for gas too. I estimate these extra monthly costs to be around $400 to $500 and never complain. Since the beginning of our relationship, he shared his home renovation plan starting with the bathrooms, which he estimates to cost at least $10,000. I like the idea because the improvements would be nice to have. Floor-to-ceiling marble, glass shower doors, and new windows to add natural light. There are currently no issues with the bathrooms, but he insists we should get it done before we have kids, and would like me to contribute. I've always been upfront about my hesitation to contribute large amounts to a home I don't own because we aren't married yet, and I'm not on the deed. I also don't want to be like his ex who contributed to similar expenses, and obviously that didn't work out. I told him it would give me comfort in knowing I contribute large amounts to something I also own, and also shared my insecurity about ending up like his ex, which he thinks is ridiculous because nothing's guaranteed anyway. We could marry and divorce. He recently had other improvements made to the house which costed about $10,000. I didn't help pay or request these things, but I have made previous comments about how these upgrades would be nice to have eventually. Lately, it seems my boyfriend has been building resentment towards me for not contributing more because he's made comments that my monthly mortgage contribution doesn't help a lot and that it feels like he will always be alone in this. I've told him I have no issues with contributing more once I'm on the deed. Edit. I wanted to provide a little clarification / extra info in response to some of the comments. The 40% I pays towards the mortgage and utility bills, and by his calculations, the total for that is $800. That, plus the extra $400 to $500 I spend, brings my monthly contribution to about $1,200 to $1,300. According to a quick Google search, the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in my city is about $1,600. We're both aware that I pay less than the average, and I've expressed my gratitude for not having to pay that much anymore. I rented a one-bedroom apartment before moving in and have done this for years. Also aware that utilities like electricity and gas can fluctuate, so I'm also grateful to pay a fixed amount towards that every month. Although we mostly use my car and I always pay for gas and the monthly city parking, he is very experienced and handy with cars, and has done my oil changes, so I have not had to bring my car in for maintenance at a shop. Not the a-hole. Don't pay for work on a house you have no legal claim to. Quite honestly, you need to take a step back from paying the amount you do, in my opinion. I could see covering / splitting utilities and groceries, but why are you paying any amount of money to a mortgage you're not on? And in addition to that, you're the one putting all those miles on your car. And if he doesn't contribute to gas, I'm assuming he doesn't contribute to maintenance either. And you're not even the first partner he's pulled this crap with? I don't know, bestie. The red flags are starting to pile up. She's paying it for rent. Why should she live there rent-free? But the renovations? Yeah, she definitely shouldn't pay for those. Not a-hole. He basically made a rental agreement with you, but expects you to contribute like you're an owner. If he feels like he'll always be alone in this, then he should formalize your partnership. This is it. Does that mean he never plans to marry? Never plans to co-own assets, including a house? Because that's a flag of a certain color flapping in the breeze there. Not a-hole. Don't contribute to something you don't own without more agreement. If he raises the rent, discuss the gas and other costs. As far as the house goes, you're a tenant. As partners though, It's time for a serious discussion about plans and timelines and feelings, especially if you're thinking about kids in a year or so. I would only contribute to the renovations if there was a signed notarized note detailing the monies given with a stipulation that the funds would be returned in the event the relationship doesn't work out. He could just be a man trying to build a home and life for you both, but he makes twice your income, expects 40% of mortgage for rent, and uses your car 90% of the time. That's an uneven split of costs. This smells like the guy's dangling the carrots of marriage and family to primp his home that you have no ownership claim to. Not the a-hole. You are right to think twice. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's friend she was wrong to leave her alone? Yesterday, I had plans to take my son to a water park. I asked my friend's wife, who is good friends with my wife, to stay with her for the day. She can't really be alone right now because of her health. All of these plans were made in advance. When I got home, my wife was alone with our baby, and her friend was not there. I contacted a friend who said that my wife cussed her out and told her to get out of her home and her life. I understand that's a lot to put up with, but she didn't even call to tell me she was leaving her alone. She told me she didn't call me because my wife is a grown woman and everyone needs to stop coddling her. I said that wasn't her decision, and I felt betrayed by what she did. She called me a disaster whose life is falling apart, and that instead of passing judgment on her, I should shut up and listen for once. I didn't mean to offend her. I was just shocked by what she did. But her extreme response makes me think I did something wrong. Was I an a-hole for judging her actions? You're the a-hole. If your wife can't be left alone, you need to hire a caretaker, not pawn her health off on friends. Her friend has no obligation to be mistreated by your wife, especially when you're off having a fun day at the water park. You're stressed, and you and your wife are taking it out on someone who tried to do you guys a favor. This PPD is no joke. You put yourself first and took it out on her friend. You need to prioritize her. OMG, read his prior post. He got his ex knocked up. Don't let him say it's PPD. It's husband making bad decisions depression. Read the whole post history. They're separated because she keeps talking to her racist father, keeps inviting him to the dinner OP's cooking, and begging OP to stay. Yes, OP messed up, but let's not act like this dumpster fire of a marriage is just on him. You left her while she's suffering. So, I've stayed with her for months after my initial request for a divorce because she said she needed me. I almost lost my job because of her. I almost lost my son. She has alienated herself from almost all of our friends and is trying to prevent me from maintaining contact with them. Where is the line? When does it stop? I love the person she used to be, that I thought she was. But when does it end? Is this my life now? Have you taken her to see a doctor to put her on meds? Please take the baby from her and hire a caretaker for her until she's better. Continue on with your divorce, but know you have to pay child support. Right now, sir, for the friend incident, you're the a-hole. You need to listen to the friend. Good luck, dude. She wouldn't return after the first appointment, nor will she take the medication that was prescribed. I cannot afford to hire a caretaker for her, especially since she almost got me fired by calling my boss and telling him if she died, it would be his fault when I had to go into the office for a mandatory 1-hour meeting. If something like that is truly happening, then you need to call the police or a mental health facility to get your wife the help she desperately needs. At this point, she is a danger to herself and to your baby. Money be damned, would you rather be in debt from getting your wife help or in debt from 1 or possibly 2 funerals because you didn't take this seriously? Because that is the route you are risking right now. And putting that on your friend is absolutely disgusting and out-of-line behavior. That is an out-of-line request. That is not your friend's job to deal with that, and you should never have put that on them.